everybody. Welcome to day 2 of TCG's virtual conference. I know that some of you have been in some of the sessions already today. Some of you are joining us for the first time, but welcome, y'all. I'm Amelia Cachapero, she, her, TCG's Director of Artistic International Programs, and I'm calling in from the ancestral land of the Lenape people, otherwise known as Manhattan. I'm a brown-skinned Filipina with short black hair, black glasses, wearing a gray top today, and I'm sitting in front of a blue wall. We want to thank the lead sponsors for the plenary, the New York State Council on the Arts, Charcoal Blue, and the Schubert Foundation. Now, I'm hoping that you all caught the slide that we just showed with our rising leaders of color, 2021 and 2020, and you could see more info about them and also the Fox actors on the professional development programs room in the exhibitor section on Mighty Networks. They're all definitely people that you need to have on your radar. And actually, that's a good segue to this afternoon's programming. So the programming has been created by, for, about, and with theater makers and professionals who are 30 and under, the Inheritors. As someone who is most definitely not in that age group, I see my role here as one of deep listening with curiosity and generosity. Now, some of you that are in my age group may have been at the 2009 conference in Baltimore, where in the session, If I Ran the Zoo, we asked 4 younger theater leaders what theaters they'd want to run and what they would do that would be different. We asked Andy Diamond, Kate Taylor Davis, Joe Salvatore, and Mayan Wang. Now, these 4 folks were yearning for change and had an impatience that was palpable and warranted. They were inheriting the mistakes and challenges that they didn't create. Now, it was just after the 2008 world financial crash. Afghanistan witnessed a surge in violence with over 65,000 foreign troops in the country. One of the largest cyclones in the area in Southeast Asia, Nargis, passed through Myanmar, killing 138,000 people in one go. Now today, those who are 30 and under are inheriting all that and more. They're inheriting a public health crisis and an economic crisis unprecedented in scale, with a much higher impact on communities of color. The climate emergency has arrived and is accelerating far faster than most scientists had anticipated. And the intersection of social justice issues shows up in the Ugandan climate justice activist Vanessa Nakate calling out anti-Blackness and racism in the environmental justice movement. So all that and more. Now, the folks that you're hearing from today, they're leaders now, not future or emerging or would be or maybe when, but now. I'm not expecting them to solve it all, but I want to hear their vision, what they need, and how the rest of us must support. Time to step back and listen. Turning it over to y'all, the Inheritors. Sarah, take it away.
Thank you, Amelia. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Machiko Haber. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a mixed Asian woman with shoulder-length brown hair and brown eyes. I'm wearing a black shirt and my background is blurred out. I'm calling in today from the lands of the Canarsie and the Mentimecock. I am the EDI Initiatives Associate at TCG and also one of the co-curators for this afternoon's set of sessions, along with Anne Charlone and Sam Moriali. I'm here to provide some context. I'll be speaking some on behalf of Anne and Sam, but also on behalf of myself as a young person. To preface, please know these 3 things. 1, we have the utmost respect for our elders. Nothing we do is possible without those who came before. 2, know that there are voices and perspectives missing from today's conversations. Also, these are not the only conversations to have. just the ones we highlighted today. 3, the young people speaking throughout the afternoon are not anomalies. There is someone in your theater, your town, your neighborhood who could have been featured today. Got it? Then let's begin at our beginning. How do you define young? 30 is always an easy marker when trying to name a cutoff. There are numerous 30 under 30 lists and other cultural markers that define 30 as a significant age. Our 30 and under lens is fairly US specific and has several definitions. 30 and under is defined by presidents. If you're 30 now, then the first presidential election you might have been able to vote in resulted in the first Black president. We all know what followed. 30 and under is defined by going from gig to gig, not being paid what you're worth, or not being able to find a job because the older generations are not retiring the way the generations before them did. It's quitting because a job doesn't meet our work-life standards and knowing we'll figure something out. 30 and under is noticing the number of they, them, she, they, Caesar, no pronoun using people in your friend groups. It's growing up in a country constantly at war on terror, but not technically at war because Congress hasn't declared war since 1942. 30 and under is growing up on the internet and having every moment judged and saved forever. It's speaking a second language of internet humor that many of our elders, including vintage millennials, simply don't get. It's growing up while watching video after video of Black and brown people shot by the police, again and again. It's going to school in this pandemic. 30 and under is defined by school shootings being a normal and expected occurrence. It's doing active shooter drills right alongside fire drills, doing that while knowing that there are people who think you, a child, are an acceptable casualty so that anyone can own a gun. The first time I practiced hiding under my open-sided desk and staying quiet, I was in 3rd grade. By my last drill in high school, a friend and I had learned to bring headphones and an iPod Touch with a movie preloaded, which was a truly wild way to be introduced to V for Vendetta for the first time. 30 and under is defined by climate change. We've never known a world where the phrases global warming or climate change weren't in the headlines. It's knowing climate change is also colonization and immigration and ableism and zoning laws. Why didn't you act? Don't you care about my future? Is it even ethical to bring a kid into the world anymore? Does Flint have clean water yet? And water is life. Knowing this is likely only the first pandemic we'll live through because who knows what emerges when the ice melts. So how many more times will we clap for essential workers and not actually help them? We have maybe 7 years left to stop the thermometer from tipping. 30 and under is defined by so much more, but you get the picture. So how do you program for a worldview that's only known existentialism? And how can you talk about our theater ecology and not discuss how our industry exists within our global, environmental, and economic ecologies? First, you get mad. And then you start, as people have always started, with dreaming. You start by imagining a different way. And you put your faith in your peers, not your elders. In young people's dreams of the future and the work they are doing now, even when dismissed as too young or told these things take time. Young people are often criticized for being impatient, for expecting things to happen instantly. But this has always been youth's superpower, and we're choosing to see it that way because we have not been afforded the luxury of time. So as you attend sessions this afternoon, know that the 3 of us did our best to curate for you, our fellow 30 and unders. We wanted to give you space to dream, space to learn from collective wisdom, and space to simply be with each other and find joy. Know that while the people speaking today are amazing and wonderful, you are also amazing and wonderful, and we are equally inspired and moved by the work that you are doing. To the folks who are older, know that we're here and we're not waiting on you to validate our work or our experiences. You should know, though, that it's not responsible to make choices that we will have to live with without us, or at the very least without our input. Either learn to include us in your decision-making or be prepared to get out of the way. Also, we're really not interested in seeing another revival of the Music Man. And if anything I've said so far makes you doubt that, then you haven't been listening. And Sam and I were asked if we had a manifesto, a declaration to share with you all. I don't think we have one. We don't have a singular manifesto because we know we don't speak for everyone 30 and under. And we know that there is more to learn when we pass the mic, that solutions lie in our shared knowledge. So today, you're not going to hear one manifesto. You're going to hear 30, one from each person speaking. We didn't plan for 30 speakers, it just happened. Serendipity. I think I'll pass the mic to Sam now.
I'm so sorry. I gotta breathe for a second. And I'll invite you all to just, Sarah. I have such tremendous pride and admiration for you, babe. I feel so held. I feel very seen. I know that people watching are feeling very similarly. I'm like, yeah, wow, you said it. So with that pause to collect myself, I'll introduce myself and get us towards the conversation that we're having in this plenary. My name is Sam, for those who don't know me, Sam Morielli. I use they, them pronouns, and I am the current producing consultant on this year's conference, as well as one of the co-curators for this afternoon's programming. I am currently a settler on the land of the Canarsie and Lenape people, who I hope to continue uplifting, giving back to, and honoring as I understand the ways I benefit. As a person who has the misfortune of being complicit in the theft of their land and the land of all Indigenous peoples within the United States. A brief visual description of myself. I am a very bald-headed, coffee with a dash of cream colored gender presenting human wearing a blue suit jacket with a bit of a floral pattern shirt underneath, some dope big old earrings, some nails, and behind me you can see my bedroom walls and the canopy of my bed frame, which is where I work during the Sponda replay. The conversation that we're about to have and enter into is going to be a mess, which brings me so much joy. Because in mess, I believe we find solutions, avenues, imaginings, and ways forward. To me, mess defies the white supremacist need for all things to be linear, logical, and coherent. And this conversation for me as well wants to rhyme with the offerings from yesterday's plenary by Eric Liu from Citizen University, who shared such tremendous gifts. I hope you were able to watch, and if not, you go back to witness that. But he spoke a call to action to take inventory of our own individual power. And I just want to state plainly, we are powerful. Power is abundant, and having a strong grasp of our individual power allows us to begin the refounding that this industry needs, in my opinion, and that refounding can also help shape the world around us. I firmly believe that. In the immediate effort that was made to support artists in this past year during the pandemic, I found myself really wondering, what about the young people? Where is the support for young administrators? And I want to be clear that I asked this question from a place of abundance and a place that understands that there is enough support, care, resources, compassion, and community to hold all of us in our times of need. And I'm not looking to increase the already stark mythology that divides artists and administrators, and TBH, the number of us who are spinning all of the plates is increasing every single day. I'm noting this lack of support because for me, I can say with almost certainty that if I had not had the opportunity to work at TCG last year, I would not have work today. I would not be the freelancer that I am right now, because every single freelancing opportunity I've had in this past year that has paid my bills and kept me afloat has been through the blessings of this community. And it makes me ask, what about the other me's? What about the other first gen, rural born, cannot afford the O or the R, queer, Black and brown, gender non-existent me's who are out there who may have been lost to other industries that could better support their sustenance? How will our fields suffer in the future from that loss of our ancestors and legacy makers? And as I bring these beautiful humans into conversation today, which I'm so excited to enter into this space. I am really disinterested in neat bows and packaged offerings that we can give to you, but instead hope to emphasize our tremendous ability to dream when faced with unparalleled violence, loss, and looming threats that we face every day. And I've been saying in planning this conversation that I hope what you witness is the conversation that when I leave work tired with my peers and we're complaining and kikiing and going on with the rest of our evening, the conversation that is us angry and mad, but building and dreaming and moving forward and challenging each other and just dreaming. So with that, I'd love to bring on the panelists for this roundtable discussion. We're gonna get them on. If y'all can turn your videos on so we can spotlight you, that would be amazing. And I wanna just do a round of introductions with everybody and we'll go from there. And I'll take a cue from Brian Joseph Lee and do a little shimmy shake as we get folks onto the screen. Hello, hello. Hi, Penny. All right, amazing, amazing. We're missing one other, I believe. And we are here. I'm so excited. So should we just dive in? Can you all share who you are, introduce yourselves to the crowd, and let us know what's up with you?
So we're going to go alphabetically, I'm assuming. So I'm going to dive right in. Okay. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening and good night to my friends and family who are watching in India. Hi, everybody. My name is Akhila. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm currently in New Delhi, India, which is the raging capital of the pandemic right now. You will probably hear ambulance sirens because that is the reality we're living in. Things right now are very grim. And I think before talking about myself, I just want to express solidarity with all my friends out there who are verifying leads and connecting oxygen cylinders to people who need it right now. Many of them are artists, actually. I identify as an applied theater practitioner, which means that I design theater-based interventions in corporations and communities, nonprofits, schools, and universities in India and in the US. Currently, I'm affiliated with Black Box Okla, which is an independent performing arts house in New Delhi. And I'm also part of a lovely community of arts-based practitioners who work with youth called Agaz Theatre. I am about to start my master's in drama therapy at NYU this fall, if all goes okay. And I am a brown-skinned Indian girl with black hair, dark brown eyes, wearing a printed shirt, and in the background there are orange curtains. Yes, and I'd like to pass the mic to Penny.
Oh, thought we're going alphabetically, but let's go. So I'm Penny, she, her pronouns. I'm calling in from Manhattan, the land of the Lenape people. I identify as a playwright, producer, and a dramaturg. And I'm currently working as the associate producer at Heartbeat Opera, which is a little bit out of the world of plays and musicals. And I'm also a founding member of Theatre Producers of Color. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna share for today. Monica?
Thank you, Penny. You're so awesome. Hi, everyone. My name is Monica Montoya. My pronouns that I use are she, her, hers. I am zooming in from the ancestral lands of the Gabrielino Tongva people, otherwise known as Los Angeles, California. I am a Latinx woman with light skin, brown eyes, black hair, and like a black braided headband, wearing a brown sweater with gold jewelry. And my background is a white wall with like a bunch of artwork on it and like a bookcase. So paint that picture for y'all. I currently proudly serve as the communications associate for National New Play Network, as well as proudly the social media coordinator and the front of house manager for Boston Court Pasadena. And yeah, those are all my things. I guess I'll pass it to Natalie.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalie Thomas. I am wearing an olive green dress with some gold jewelry. I have on brown square frames, laid edges, a high ponytail and bubble form. My background is gray and white, and you see a little bit of my boho throw pillows, mustard yellow, and my bed. So that's kind of the setting I'm in. I live on a busy street, so you might hear ambulance, trucks, traffic. Currently, I am the senior manager of communications at the Alliance Art New York, Alliance Resident Theaters of New York, and I'm calling in from the Lenape, Canarsie, Wappinger land that I am also participating in displacing folks. So we got all that going on. And I am Afro-Caribbean, hailing from South America. Some of you might know of a small little country called Suriname and Guyana. And so that intersection is where my family is from. And I will pass it to Yasmin.
Hi everyone, my name is Yasmin Zakaria Mikael. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm zooming in from Austin, Texas, which is the unceded territory of the Limpid Apache, Comanche, and Tonkawa folks. My heart and soul and everything grew up in and around Chicago, and I'm happy to be moving back because I just finished my MA in Performance as Public Practice at UT Austin. I primarily identify as a dramaturg, arts journalist, and oral historian, and currently doing work on more inclusive writing for criticism. And I am a mixed race, light skin Persian femme. I have a maroon lip, a maroon dress, maroon glasses, that's the vibe. Hair is curly, living her best life. I have a virtual Zoom background of a theater on campus.
Thank you all so much for bringing your voices into this space. I'm super excited to be in conversation with you today, and just it's always tremendous to hear all of the work that you're doing and all of the places that you hold and the community that you're really rooted in. And when thinking about, how to begin this conversation and how to start dreaming, I actually feel like it's important to recognize what's in the way of that. Because, so much of what Sarah described, so much of what I described is that like something really unique to us under 30 folks is that we've only known existential crises. Like we're living in a time called the Anthropocene, which means post-human. Like the world feels like it might end any day now, especially if we don't make some real drastic decisions. And I especially like Akila, I'm holding you in your community right now who is being so struck by the pandemic as the US was. And now we are hoarding all of these resources that is preventing humans from continuing to exist. And it's really hard to imagine, our collective career in theater making when it feels like sometimes our efforts could be spent in other places. So I'm wondering, what do you all need to speak into this space today in order to begin imagining the plethora of things that we could be doing with this field in order to accomplish maybe serving folks in the ways that they're not being served right now. Yeah, that's the end of that sentence. Anybody want to jump in on that?
I'll get us started. So I think maybe the one material thing we should name is that money. A lot of us just need direct resources to be doing the work that we need to. And I was actually super disheartened at the beginning of the pandemic that a lot of the jobs for folks like me, literary managers were among the first to be let go from their institutions. And a lot of institutions also invested in the buildings themselves, even though they've been sitting empty for about 1.5 years. So there's just like foundationally the materials that we need to survive like funding just don't exist right now. And it's really hard to be sitting in abundance mindset when we see a lot of the resources being allocated in ways that don't serve artists, people first, over the products or the buildings that are still empty.
Yeah, I feel very every time I see like an organization pour their resources, their money into their space, like the space, your space is not the storytelling, it's not the art. That's not what it is, right? Like put the money in the people's pockets, put the money into the youths' pockets, because they know what to do with it, you know? And I think that you have to remember it's like plays, you know, a mentor once told me like plays over people, like people over plays. What is it? Like pick one, you know? And so I think that we have to not be afraid to remember that like we can gather in a parking lot, we can gather in an alley, we can gather in a rundown space, and that's okay as long as the voices are being heard, as long as the stories are being told, as long as there's truth. So I think I completely and totally relate to what Yasmin is saying, because it's true. I think we have to stop being in the scarcity mindset, stop being afraid. So it's a lot of it is out of fear. A lot of it is out of, oh, you know, we there is not enough to go around, when that is absolutely untrue. We just don't know where to put it. You know, put it in the pockets of the artists and they'll know what to do with it, I swear.
But also like the fear is not unfounded, right? I mean, I'm just thinking back, I mean, so much of the fear that I have found this year and even the years before has been censorship, right? So I could have all these stories that I want to tell, but if the government and the political system doesn't fully support that, and how do you know what is supported when the myth is something else? So I think, of course, it's the stories we want to tell, but I think also just acknowledging the frames and the limitations within which we are making these stories. And I think another frame for me personally, like, of course, I don't even want to go into funding because that is just negligible here. But I think tagging on to the funding as well as the fear idea is just that personally for me, I'm very limited for the past year because I'm stuck in my room. I don't know stories that are not being virtually made, and that's a problem. There are so many arts and artists in India who are not performing in the virtual medium, and my worry is that what will happen to that lineage of rich performing arts culture that's not going to be written about and seen because it's not on a screen. And for me, I'm worried that that is going to create biases in me and in terms of my lack of exposure and my diversity of stories and my ability to see the other blind spots that I'm not seeing because of the pandemic. So that is a very real obstacle, at least for me. Yeah.
I hear all of that and I agree. I also find it hard. They're so rude. To focus on artistry when I'm watching everyone else around me that is also artists suffering, or arts administrators, because there's this empathetic space where I can't hustle about my dream when I'm watching you also like suffer. And so more spaces that normalize coming together to not commiserate, but to find a way to support and sister and hold the weight of those difficult moments through normalizing that. Like a lot of times the only way through is through, but then no one makes space. And what does making space look like when I'm full-time, you're contracted? Like, what does that look like? So I can hear you, hold you, support you, and then move through the feeling to then begin to say, okay, now we can start dreaming. Actually, I think there's a project I would love to bring you on, right? Like that for me is like in these spaces where we're service organizations and we're working, how do we actually allow for it to be okay to allow space to see other folks, you know, going through the difficulty and allow for that to be normalized so that we can get to dreaming together. Because I cannot be okay if my people around me are not okay. And like that's a huge part of it.
And the most immediate thing for me right now is that the pressure of the return, like first of all, like the health crisis is still going on. My anxiety of that is not gone. And on top of all of the things we just said, and for me personally, I just realized it when I said it out loud a few days ago, like for the past year, I haven't been faced with any accessibility issues as a wheelchair user. Like I would have to go back and face that anxiety daily. So like what the pressure of the return is really stressing me out and making me anxious. And like and the narrative of like the dominant side of the field really excited for the return. I'm wondering what is that saying and who are they leaving behind? And like we're just left here, like the keynote speaker said yesterday, like running around with buckets trying to get drops. And yeah.
I so appreciate that offering, and I feel like that is like also the perfect segue to begin the dreaming too, because you know what you're all speaking to, and like what you're pointing to specifically, Penny, that pressure of the return. It's like I feel like everybody has forgot what we did this last year. Like, has this year not shown us that all of our infrastructure is moldable, changeable? We could do whatever we want with it. Like, that is exactly what I want us to lean into, specifically as it regards to intersect, like the work that we should be doing for anti-racism and anti-oppression and equity and justice. Like, if we just actually slowed down and stopped feeling this need to produce, we would all be far more supported. We'd be able to do things in human-centered ways. And so I'm wondering, like, what are all of your thoughts about like getting to that place of abundance, which was a word y'all know I love scarcity and abundance. I am a caricature when it comes to saying those words. And I'm just curious to hear all of your thoughts about how we really lead knowing that. And as you think on that question, I'll offer for myself, like with a producing hat on, because Akila, earlier you mentioned financial resources. This is the hill I will die on, is like there's an abundance of money in this world. And as long as capitalism lives, that money can be redistributed easily. Like, I am infuriated that there are executive leaders in this field who are still making six-figure salaries, and all their interns were never supported and were immediately out the door. Their fellows out the door, their entry-level staff out the door. And let us not forget that those are all the positions that the people who look like us are also holding, right? Like, that it is not the wealthy white men, all of the normal things that I could say here, the people who have historical power within this country. It's not them, it's the people that look like us, and we're being denied that future opportunity for change simply because somebody can't look at a budget and decide like, oh, actually maybe like, do you know, like as a poor person, do you know what I can do with $10? Like $10, not even, you know, like when I think about how much money I make a year and I have this space in this apartment in New York City, I think that's where that ends. Like, I got questions. Things are not adding up in the hoarding of their resources. So I want, like, what are your thoughts towards dreaming towards that abundant space and getting to it?
I feel deeply in my soul that I've heard this a lot, and I've produced for the web series that I'm working on, and I have done the budget and I have done the research. And let me tell you, budgeting is a values-based process. It is a values-based process. And if you want some real innovation, how about you share that budget? How about you be transparent? How about you see these people rubbing two dimes together, making it work out here, and they'll help you figure out how to get it done. But it's because it's not just the hoarding of the wealth, it's the hoarding and the barricading of the information. Because we are collective knowledge, that's how collective knowledge shows up. When you are saying, okay, I'm having this problem of taking care of the community, let me open up and see what I can learn from these folks that are on my team that I'm good stewards of to help re-innovate, reorganize, redistribute this budget. Because that's part of it too. And you know, I really feel strongly about that. And if there is something you really believe in artistically, I understand like, okay, this is a set, this is a thing that we need that costs X, Y, and Z to make. But you should never be putting materials over people. If they can't break even, go back to the beginning and figure out how to be innovative, because there is a way.
I would also name that a part of that sustainability is also having a hospitable work culture, be it for the people that are in your building or the freelancers that you are running through them. I'm really curious how we can continue to develop a culture of care and the ways that we can actually like bring our discomfort, name harms in the room, and work to actually do better interpersonally in these spaces. Because we all bring our own cultural wealth in figuring out what are the assets that I have as a person, bringing not only just like my BFA into the room, but my lived experience as a person moving through this world without what I need, when we actually have what we need in the space. But we have to be able to name the harms that are happening. What would it mean to have a grievance form that went out after every single meeting, where you could really follow up on what's landing on folks in different ways, making space for real open conversations that can just transform the way that we are interpersonally interacting with each other on a daily basis.
I'm so glad, Yasmin, you mentioned the degree thing, because I like burst out laughing, because I mean, something that I really think about in terms of redistributing of wealth and funds is that, I mean, primarily the reason I feel like I have even been able to articulate half my thoughts here is sometimes I feel like because I've got that degree, and at the same time, I feel like if American institutions do not open up their doors to scholarships and grants for international students to come and learn, like why is that becoming a barrier for other people like me to be on this? Like why am I the only person here is like my biggest question that is like is so loud in my head, and I can't help it when you talk about abundance, even think about the world as abundant, not just the US, but really think back and think about us as a global community, because if there's something that the pandemic has taught us is that we don't function in vacuums, and we need to constantly be interconnected. So make your institutions have grants that are available to international students and international artists and are not based on degrees, but are based on the quality of artistry and just the passion and just the level of rigor that exists, which I don't know if many of you even have exposure to because of just, like I said, the screen problem. So, let's think about other ways of also redistributing wealth for those of us who have, yeah.
Yes, thank you for that global perspective as well, which is like, I think another thing that's so unique of our generation is like how interconnected we have been in the age of the internet. Like it's so, the way that I could talk to anybody anywhere in the world, almost anywhere in the world, there are many places that do not have internet access, and I believe that internet should be a public good. It should be given in the same way that I believe that healthcare should be given. But we're so interconnected. And another thought from what you both offered, that just an angry point, it's not really building, but like expertise is starting to matter less and less and less. Like the degree did not matter. And we know that because of the number of like 20 somethings who do have their MFAs, MAs, like PhD, whatever it might be, who are still getting fellowship positions at these theaters, unpaid fellowship positions. Like what a bonkers thing. I think a lot about how like the stagnancy that our field is experiencing. And I also want to be really clear, again, speaking from a place of abundance. Like this is not me saying that like all you old heads need to retire, I'm done. Like that's not it. We have so much to learn together, and there is enough resources for all of us to have these positions in this field. Like it's not about like, we all have material realities that under capitalism must be paid for. That I honor, I respect. I'm not here to be like, get out so that I can come in. Like, I want to know how we can be there together. Penny, I saw you unmute before, so I want to see what you have to offer here.
Yeah, and maybe taking it a step back, but in terms of like people over materials, there is also a culture among artists, not just institutions, that I know of, especially with artists who have already done well. They actually offer their own salary or compensation to put into their own production while the production is supposed to be covered by the theater because they don't want to get a bad review. And because when you get a bad review, stay on your resume forever. So there are artists out there who is also employing this mindset and perpetuating this inequality. Is just not just an institutional problem. There are artists who use their own capital to improve what should be covered by the theater. And another thing is that talking about sustainability, fellowships or internships are not sustainable. I mean, I've done a fellowship and my term was 6 months, and after 6 months, I'm gone. So, like, what is the purpose of those entry-level learning opportunities if I'm not continue to be nurtured?
Period. Sorry, I just had to say, I had to come off mic just to say that.
Yes.
Period.
100%. Yes.
The fellowship is not giving what was supposed to give, honey. It was not giving what was supposed to give.
Yes. I also want to touch on a point that we talked about earlier, which is like collective wisdom. Like going back to that budget, like our artistic directors, executive leadership, whoever you must be, are you talking to your entry level positions? Like, are you talking to the humans who are actually interacting with your audiences? I've noticed that the further up the poll you get, like the further up you get, the less you actually interact with your audiences, the less you interact with the people that are coming into your spaces, the less you interact with the people who you are supposed to be, whose stories you were supposed to be telling. And mentorship is not a one-way street. Mentorship is a two-way street. I have just as much value, experience, and knowledge and skills to share with an artistic director, to share with an executive director, to share with someone who has an abundance of experience. I have just as much value to give to you, the mentor, as you have to give to me, the mentee. It's a two-way relationship. It's a two-way street. So I want us to get away from this like insane hierarchy of knowledge, of information sharing, information hoarding, and translate it to information sharing, abundance of wisdom, abundance of knowledge. I have cultural differences, cultural understanding. I have personal understanding of how certain things in the world work that I can offer you just as much as you can offer me. And I may not be able to offer you money because I'm broke, but I can offer you my knowledge. I can offer you my ideas. I can offer you my creativity. So are you talking to those people who look like us, by the way, all those people who are box office, front of house, patron services? Are you talking to these people? And are you offering them mentorship? And are you learning from them? Are you really learning from them? Because they know what your audiences look like. Do you?
Y'all are speaking to my spirit right now. Like my body needs to like do things. I'm just so in love. I want to, Natalie, jump in.
So I wanted to offer up a reframing of how we think of wealth, because the way wealth as in money, but like there is a wealth of knowledge that we're talking about. We're talking about when we say mentorship is a two-way street, like the wealth of the person who is observing things at the box office to help fill the gap of how you're communicating with your marketing. That's the money. That's the money right there. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, wealth is not just the immediate money, it's the investment for the future. And we can't just look at the trees and not see the forest when your box office person is not being allowed or has a clear way of talking to your marketing person because their mid or fellowship is not talking to your ED. Because again, in that collective knowledge, there's a different vantage point. There's the top-down vantage point, but what about the bottom top? What can I see from down here that you might not see from up there because you're too high? What am I seeing from left because I'm a contractor that you're not seeing because you're dead center in front of the production? And that is really, really important. And that's wealth. And that's allowing your content to actually evolve and emerge. Because if you're doing the same thing, expecting different results, that's insanity. And if you're not generative, then you might as well not be on Broadway.
No, period. Sorry. I'm yes to all of this. I wanted to offer like truly a lukewarm take, lukewarm tea, like very room temperature, to the point that you're both making. Nobody in this field knows what they're doing. Not a single person. I do not know anybody who does not approach their job every single day with a high level of emergence and ability to just hold people and relationships and connect and build. Like that is at its heart, I think, a lot of what we do and drive forward. There are definitely like some hard skills and things that, you know, I those people know what they're doing, but on like a lot of the big like vision admin side that is like driving the organization, I don't understand. So like to me that actually says there's no reason that this group of people should not actually be a part of those conversations. I feel like what I'm told in my current positionality often is like, no, that's an us conversation. You're not ready to be a part of that. Like it, and kind of keeping honestly exactly what you're talking about, Monica. Like I have a lot to learn by hearing those conversations. And also, y'all know what I got to offer. You do not know. So how can you tell me that I should not be in that space with you building? Like, that's what I want. And I'm wondering, do you all have, in terms of like intergenerational connectedness and like, I guess maybe not even specifically that, but your dreams for collaboration, like when you think about lateral and communal spirited collaboration, what does that look like in its purest form to you? How do you dream of collaborating moving forward? Jump in, please.
Well, I always have to take space to name dramaturgs as a necessity, not a luxury. So please pay us the same as the other designers, thank you. But I would also say that part of it is seeing each other as equal collaborators and not necessarily thinking of it in the pyramid of the director is at the top. What does it really mean to center everyone's voice equally in the space? Start rehearsals with like the collective agreements of how we're going to treat each other. What does it check-ins at the top of rehearsal so we can see each other, know what energy we're bringing in the space, and not just like coldly going to the work on the page or each other. I think that really lends to that prioritizing of people that I hear in this space a lot.
I wanted to build, thank you for that offering also, like that little mic drop, pay dramaturgs, everybody. What we do is dramaturgy. I want to add to my question and just ask particularly when you imagine beyond constantly needing to prove yourself, what does collaboration look like for you?
It looks like being able to innovate. And I know that's like a word that I'm, you know, like how you say abundance, I say innovate. That's how it feels. But this is what it is. You have wisdom. I have a different approach. What happens when we marry those two? Right? Like there are some rocks that I do not need to overturn because you already overturned them. I don't need to learn some of those hard lessons. There's also maybe a different way of thinking about it with technology. Like you want to talk about that budget? You want to talk about how we can spend less money on printing? Okay, I got you. Let's find the QR code. Let's make the script a thing. There you go. Your cost for printing just cut in half. That is what it feels like. It feels like being able to rumble and to be invited in to help problem solve with the wisdom of the elder and the innovation of my generation and the generation behind me too, because I'm learning from them too. I'm like, oh yeah, how does Snap thing work? Yes, okay, great, that's awesome. So I really think that's what it looks like. It looks like, I don't know, I have ancestral lust. And I love the elders. That is not a phrase I coined it from Adrienne Marie Brown, but like there is nothing more amazing and affirming. Like I don't think we talk about how affirming it is when you get to sit at your feet of your elders and you get to ask those hard questions and you get to say, what was this like? And how, what should I be looking for in the forest? It's really embodying and emboldening us to be your wildest dreams because we get to sit at your feet and take in that knowledge, and because you don't chastise us when we offer up a new perspective. It's really great.
And I wonder how, when we talk about collaboration, how we think about structure. I mean, what Yasmin was talking about was pertaining to like the structure of a production. But sometimes I sit here and I think, why does the production only have like one lighting designer or one playwright or one director? How we can change the structure and actually open up the space for everybody to come in and to do a new way of collaboration that is inviting beyond who we already have on the team. And I say this applies to theater institutions as well. Like when you do a co-production with somebody, it's now mostly about money, but how can you really collaborate on an institutional level to actually learn from each other what you do administratively or your mission or whatever it is.
And it means so much to be like met in your fullness, which is what I hear you both speaking to as well. Like Natalie and Penny, just it is such an honor to be met as a human in the world, which feels such a simple thing to say. But truly, when I'm actually just appreciated for the fullness of my being and how I relate to others and the things that I can offer, it gives me nothing but joy to be able to like continue to build. I got just a brief note that I wanted to voice as well in the room. And I feel like we're teasing on this. And if it's just not clear, it was in the chat, and whoever said it, call yourself in. Our org structures currently, and on the design side, on the admin side, age directly correlates to where you sit in the hierarchy. And is that actually necessary? Is that serving us? Like that feels so at the heart of what we're consistently getting around. And with that, I want to pass over to you, Akila, because I want to hear your voice. We haven't heard you in a second.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about the word innovation that Natalie was speaking about. And I know we're still talking about theater in terms of an institution, and pardon me, but I'm not really in the frame of mind to think about making theater with institutions. I think my mind is not there. I think where my mind is currently, thinking about innovation is theater as process, right? So as drama as process. So how do you increase collaboration in the process part of theater? Like, for example, why can't theater be me offering, my empathy skills as a facilitator, Sam, to hold space, and that becomes a process where you have diversity, where you have multiple voices coming in, and that is the funding that's being supported. So funding is supporting the process and not the product, and that's, for me, I think, where I've seen the most growth in myself. And also going back to your point about, I love when people see the whole me. Personally, it's challenging to even put forth the whole me if I'm the only person from a nationality, very honestly. So while you can create the most safe space for me to, be safe and feel heard, unless I see more of me, I don't actually get to explore other versions of me that I have not brought into the room today. So I think one step back before bringing in the whole me is inviting more of the blind spots that we all have. Curiosity, asking. I think the key to collaboration is curiosity. You don't know what you don't know. Find out. You have the internet in your fingertips. Find out about an art form that a story which you really like about like families, and think about where that exists in Australia. Contact a playwright in India and see where what family structures look like there. Like what is stopping us from doing it? When the whole world is online. So just all these things, I feel some of the foundational ingredients to the collaboration that I feel I'm envisioning, I think.
And Monica, I see you unmuted. I just have to acknowledge I was really mouth agape there for a second, because I really want to honor like something that you said that I find so revelatory, excuse me, could not say that word, is like, the more we are met in our fullness, the more we get to experience and experiment with our sense of self. What a beautiful offering for this space, and like a beautiful articulation of that interaction that I crave. Like I want to be met in my fullness so that I can understand myself and others more. Like what a beautiful dream. And I also want to harken back to something we said earlier, which is that like being met in our fullness, being able to make that space means slowing down. I don't know why we are so, I know it is more labor at the end, like it can be seen as more labor to meet every project in its needs, but it feels so vital to me in like centering humanity, right? Like why are we so obsessed with like the like 4-week production process, you know, for instance? It's like, what every single group of human beings is going to need something different, and what does it mean to make systems that emerge with them to continue to bring Adrienne Marie Brown in this space, who we all love and adore. Like it would be so, it feels so much more fulfilling to me to like consistently create processes for artists and people widely in my life that meet them where they're at and give them all of the things that they need for as long as that takes. That feels so to me. But Monica, please.
Yes. Akila, like everything that you were saying is just yes. And I think what we need to remember too is like global, right? Like I want to bring back the initial point that you made. Like we are one planet. Yes, she's dying, but we can save her. And I think we just need to remember that what is collaboration, like what is more exciting in collaboration? Something new, something novel, like new works. None of us want to see, to echo what was said earlier, none of us want to see Music Man again. We don't want that. We want stories from the community. We want stories from the world. We want someone from India to collaborate with someone from the States. We want those two playwrights to come together and create something new and create something exciting. And new works is the foundation of creating a much more equitable space for us, because the stories can be passed around and more people can work on them and move everything forward. And in the true spirit of collaboration, there is nothing that it's based off of. We're not all working on like one play that was written by a guy, a straight white man who's now dead, that we all worship. Like that's not happening. It's real living and breathing stories that can be changed on a dime. And if that's what I love about, that's what I crave in collaboration, is collaboration in the novel and the new, and creating a more global space with that.
Yes, sorry, I was chatting. It is both like, so I'm like watching this chat and appreciating it and like want to uplift it, and I was like, oh, I have to respond now. But I actually think that this question that Nicole Salter just offered in the chat might actually be a lovely way to like wrap us and bring us towards closing, because we have about like just under 10 minutes, just so you all know and can keep that in your brains. And I'm sad because I want more. I want so much more. But Nicole, I'm gonna scroll up real quick to read this and say, and voice it out loud. I love this conversation. Something about it feels familiar and yet so much new. I wonder, how do you all specifically and or figuratively see yourselves and your innovative spirit in the continuum of those young people who come before you? And where do you see, gotta scroll, and where do you see the spirit of youth in generations to come pushing the evolution as you all age in the field? I really appreciate this question because of how it situates the fact that like we are all future ancestors as well. So thoughts, feed me, please.
You kind of took the language right out of my mouth. Like, we are ancestors in the making. It is one of the favorite figuratives or like illustrations I use is Sankofa, the bird moving forward, never forgetting to pull. And if we can all do that, we'll be a linking chain, right? And so I'm always looking to see who is it that I can bring in that has the skills that I need to DP this project, but is also like, I could see from where I'm sitting that they could use a project to actually add to their resume. And then we talk about wealth as wisdom. Who is the new office admin I can take initiative to bring? Let me take you to lunch. Let me bring you in. And like that begins to, that awareness, I think it starts with an awareness that like you are an ancestor in the making. What is your legacy going to be with the people that you reverberate with? And I find that like coming up together is what what we do well. It's like, oh, you should go check out my friend so they're doing this thing. Like we share that energy field, and we try not to stymie or cut off the communication to the ones coming up and the ones ahead of us. And that's like, it feels so simple, but it really takes practice and grounding and a lot of ego deaths and a lot of admitting when you don't know. Like, I don't know the filter, child. I do social, I don't. Can you teach me the filter, please? Please. There's that also happens, you know?
Yes, yes, yes. I see like tradition and evolution, right? Like we can hold everything from our ancestors, we can hold everything from our elders and modify as the world changes, as we change, as everything changes, and evolve. It's more of about evolving and less about fundamentally changing. I mean, as much as I'm like, burn it down, don't burn it down, right? Like there's so much that we can learn, and there's so much that we can hold and that we can make space for from previous generations. And same with us, like eventually our ideas will become stale and old and crusty. And these new generations will take everything that they've learned from us and create a much, much better industry moving forward. At least that's my hope. And it may be optimistic, but I'm really just hoping that with everything that we can teach and in all of this struggle, because it's labor, right? We are putting in all of this labor and toiling, all of this emotional struggle to create a better future for people that are even younger than us. So it's really about carrying each other forward and bringing everyone into the future as best we can until we can't anymore. So
I'm also thinking about, I think every individual and every institution should have, for better lack of words, a self-destruction plan. I'm not saying like push the button and you blow up, but like you have to imagine a scenario, future scenario where this thing, no matter it's the artistry or theater or this organization you're heading, or just your body of work as an artist, will survive without you. How does it sustain itself without you? And I think if we ask ourselves this question every day and working towards finding an answer to it, we will end up we will bring more people in inherently, because we need other people's help, like Natalie just said. And like we will start to see what this field can do without, and we return back to the fact that this is very malleable. We just witness like the entire field changed. So it's not like change cannot happen. So like you just need to work on your self-destruction plan and contribute to a future without you, without centering your own ego.
I'd like to tag on the question that was asked about where I see myself in relation to. Also, by the way, Penny loved the self-destruction idea. What a concept. So yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this just in terms of my own practice and also the context right now. And for me, I think documentation is where I think I can continue to carry on, because you can't innovate if you don't know what you're innovating on, right? So, and I think at least in some of my practice, I've seen that there's a lot of tradition that's oral, that's not documented, and there's so much magic in the oral traditions as well. I mean, storytelling itself began as an oral tradition, and there are so many stories, like I said, that are not documented. And I think one step to innovating is actually finding those blind spots, documenting that for the purpose to abundantly distribute, for the purpose to, some artist in some corner of the world might find that documentation and be like, you know what, this is exactly what I need to lead my workshop today on solidarity. And I'm going to contact this artist and get to know about this craft that I have no idea about because it's been documented. And I think the power of our generation is that we have the power of all of us right now have a laptop. We can interview, we can research, we can write, and it doesn't even have to be like journals. It can be blogs. It can just be ways of documenting processes that haven't been documented, because this is a time in history that's not going to come again. And it's up to us to kind of document it in many ways for the purpose of innovation. So yeah, I just want to keep that idea alive.
Lovely segue to me and my work as an oral historian and arts journalist, because that's what I've seen as the backbone of what I'm doing right now. Anything I write, I'm really trying to center like intergenerational aunties and other folks that have historically been lost to archives, misrepresented, and just haven't had the space to talk about their work. And I hate and both love sometimes that history repeats itself, because there are so many articles even that I'm pitching that I can pull in the ancestry of other folks' work, but very much centering and knowing that documenting it in some way is the way that we're going to be able to look back and build forward even stronger and better. And I love to uplift artists that do that space throughout their process too, because there's a lot of folks that aren't necessarily looking out for us and our own practices. And a lot of my research is also about how do we rigorously self ourselves so we can figure out what our own knowledge gaps are and address them. So the work that we are pulling forward is more culturally competent, is more inclusive, is more resisting the structures that have been oppressive to us. So just that call to like self-witness and self-document as you're also archiving and amplifying the folks around you.
Yes. Oh my God. I just have to say out loud again, I'm in love with you all. I have one quick question that I would like to respond to Nicole's question. I have one quick question for all of you before we leave. And then we're gonna bring Anne into this space to close out this plenary today. But I so appreciate you, Natalie, bringing Sankofa into this space, because I think that that is so exactly what it is. And to your question, Nicole, I think, and to the point you're making, Yasmin, is like, the history repeats itself. And as frankly, the end of the world is truly on the horizon, the gap between like the frequency of the cycle of repetition, I think it is speeding up. And so my hope is that the space that we are reaching to move forward actually closes sooner so that we can prevent that oncoming journey. Because I think the other part of your question that you're pointing to, Nicole, is like, again, everything we've said today, y'all know, y'all knew, y'all have felt in some capacity. I feel that so strongly. Like, I feel so strongly that this is not unique. And how we're experiencing it right now, that is unique. But the core of this feeling that we have been describing and going around and probably don't have the right words for under this colonial language, that feeling is not unique. And I think that the more that we can just like start being in relationship to one another faster and better and in ways that approach our fullness, like that is to me how we will get to these transformative, like innovative, evolutionary spaces that hopefully will, again, prevent the oncoming disasters that we will frankly experience in our lifetime. Like we are going to experience another drastic pandemic. There's like so little telling us that we won't. The climate crisis, if we don't stop that in, I think it's like 7 years, probably less, like we have a lot, like very little hope for what our future looks like. And that bums me out. And I don't want to end on that note. But it is, you know, again, it's about our ability like to hold that reality with the fact that like we will continue to live and thrive. So with that, I do want to pass to Anne. And before I do, I want to do like a little mic drop if it feels okay to you all. This programming is for under 30s. We've already outed ourselves. I have a lot of feelings about naming my age publicly because of the way that people take power away from me in that moment. But actually, I want to state plainly, and will invite you all if you'd like to say, that I am a 23-year-old being with all of these thoughts who deserves to be in collaboration with all of you people who are watching right now. And I wonder if that is an offering you all would like to leave, as a naming of your age and your time on this earth. And then Anne, jump on in.
I just turned 25. I'm a triple Aries, thank you. So 25, yeah, that's my age. That doesn't feel real, but hello.
Hi.
Oh,
It's
so
brilliant.
I'm 25. I'm gonna be turning 26 in July. So here I am.
I am 26.
I am 27. I will be whole in 28 Saturn return on the 31st of this month. So here we go.
I am 22 years old.
And I affirm your brilliance. Truly, I'm so grateful to have been in conversation with you all today. I'm bummed that it ends formally here, but I look forward to all of the building that we will do together for this industry and beyond this space. And with that, I'll toss it over to you, Anne, to close out our plenary, and we can all go off cam. Bye, I love you.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone. That was so inspiring. And I am so just filled to the brim from that. So hello, I'm Anne Charlone. I use they or she pronouns for a visual description. I'm a white 29-year-old person with short, boyish hair, tortoiseshell glasses, a warm smile, and I'm speaking to you today from the Munsee, Lenape, and Canarsie peoples. I am the manager of event production at TCG, and in addition to producing this conference, I had the pleasure of co-curating this afternoon's programming with Sam and Sarah, who Sarah, by the way, wanted me to let you know that she is 27. So that's our age. I am just here to briefly tell you about the other sessions we have programmed for you today. But before I do, I want to pause and I want to thank Sam and Sarah for this incredibly generative and fulfilling curatorial process. You both remind me every day that true wisdom and leadership can come at any age. I learn from you both every day, and I feel so lucky to call you both my colleagues and dear friends. With that, I'll add that TCG actually has an amazing group of young folks on our staff, all of whom have helped make working remotely throughout this last year significantly more bearable. As Sarah alluded to earlier, our age group had a very big advantage at the start of the pandemic, with many of us having grown up using AOL Instant Messenger every day after school, or we've literally been making our own websites since we were preteens. So it's been amazing to watch all of you incorporate those skills into our day-to-day work. And I just want to extend gratitude to all of my TCG peers for being amazing teammates and the genuine pride I feel for the work you do every day. The other TCG young staffer I want to shout out is my fabulous colleague and friend, Natalie Smith, who's TCG's development manager and national council liaison. And I bring her up because I want to let you know that she's been hard at work planning TCG's 60th anniversary gala, which we are holding this next Tuesday night on May 18th at about 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And a few fun things about that. Our honorees are amazing. You know, we mentioned how much we do want to honor our elders at the top of this plenary. And at this gala, we are celebrating Ricardo Kahn, the co-founder of Crossroads Theater Company, as well as the Performing Arts Alliance. For the performers, also very exciting. Many of our performances for the first time will feature non-English languages. So we will be joined by the incredible cast and band performing a song from Lauren Yee's Cambodian rock band, as well as the Market Theatre Laboratory from Johannesburg, South Africa. And if you're like, oh, that's so cool, but galas are really pricey, I want to let you know that we're not requiring a big hefty price point to join this gala. You can pay what you can. All the gala tickets are available for pay what you will. We're dropping a link in the chat for you to learn more about that. You can also email gala@tcg.org if you need help getting signed up. And finally, whatever amount you can give to our gala, we so appreciate it. And we want you to know it's not only going just to support TCG, but the gift that you may give will also go to our newly launched Artist Relief Fund, which you can learn more about at the gala on Tuesday. So that's Tuesday. My final other piece of info to share is just a little rundown of the other sessions that are planned for you today. So we're going to be taking a quick break, And at 3:45 Eastern time, we have 2 sessions starting concurrently. And you can join me in one of them. The first is Bridging the Gap with Lateral Mentorship, where I'll be moderating a roundtable conversation with some other young folks about their journeys to find stable employment. And we've got a great panel set up for that, but we also will open the floor to audience participation. So I encourage you all to join. I think there are so many threads from this last conversation that we'll be able to pick up on in that space, but you do have to choose. The other session happening at 3:45 Eastern is Indigenizing Theater, Conversations with Young Native Theater Artists and Activists, where you'll hear from young Native theater makers as they explore the future of Native theater and subsequently the future of theater. Then there's a quick break at 5:15. We have 2 more sessions for you. We have Dear University Theater Programs, where you'll hear from a panel of undergraduate and alumni organizers who have penned letters on anti-racism to their college theater programs. And this is actually a follow-up from last year's American Theater Magazine article when the students have notes for the teachers. And I think we'll drop a link in the chat if you want to catch up on that article. And finally, we have also at 5:15 Eastern, Token Youths, More Than a Photo Op, which will be an exciting roundtable discussion, engaging current members of theater teen councils, fellowships, apprentice programs, youth boards, and other young leaders who will discuss how to build their visions and agency and positional power into our institutions. So real quick, to restate, all of those sessions that I just told you about, they are open for everyone. They are not affinity spaces. We would really, really love to see all of you there, regardless of your age, young, old, whatever, come out. We're dropping a link in the chat where you can learn more about those sessions. And but we do have one special affinity space left for today, and that will start at 6:30 p.m. And if you are someone who is 30-ish or younger, or you like turned 30 in the pandemic, because that doesn't count, please come hang out with us. Sam, Sarah, and I are going to be hosting a informal happy hour space. We'll do some speed dating with one another and get to know each other. So I encourage you to grab a drink, grab a La Croix, grab your favorite legalized substance of choice, come hang out with us and make a new friend. And with that, thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you to Sam and Sarah, to TCG for giving us this space, and to our incredible panelists and ASL interpreters for joining us. I will close us out. Thank you so much.